Welcome to the Cozy Storytime, your peaceful space to unwind and relax. Before we start, make sure to subscribe and like the video for more cozy stories every night. So, where are you watching it from? And what are you doing right now? I hope you enjoyed this story. Take a deep breath and let it go. Release the weight of the day and let your body sink into stillness. Tonight, I'll take you to a distant world. A place where candles float in the air, a starry sky stretches across a grand enchanted ceiling, and the whispers of magic linger behind ancient stone walls. This is the story of an unusual night at Hogwarts. Of a first-year student, a sorting hat that hesitates, and a secret hidden deep within the shadows of the Great Hall. The atmosphere will shift slowly, like a dream drifting gently. There will be soft tension, quiet mystery, and silent footsteps echoing through forgotten corridors. But don't worry. All is calm here. You only need to listen and allow your imagination to carry you softly into sleep. This is the Great Hall and the Whispering Hat. The story begins as night begins to fall. You stand still as the gray oak doors swing shut behind you with a sonorous boom, the sound reverberating through the ancient stone like a bell tolling for something that has not yet happened. Ahead of you, the Great Hall stretches wide, longer than any corridor you've known, longer than your breath. The moment you step forward, it feels as if time exhales, slow, deliberate, ancient, and your heartbeat slows to match it. Your eyes rise, drawn not to the grandeur of the 4 house tables, nor to the golden plates waiting, gleaming and untouched, but to the sky. The sky above is not the ceiling. Everyone knows this. You've read it before, in those books that smell of attic air and crumbling parchment. The enchanted ceiling, a mirror of the weather outside. But tonight, it shows no simple reflection. Tonight, the sky is impossibly vast and dark, a velvet dome of ink blue spangled with stars that blink slowly, like eyes just roused from sleep. You feel the cold of it somehow, like the memory of winter pressed gently against your skin. The stars shimmer not just with light, but with weight, as though they're watching, too. You take a breath. It smells of wax and ancient stone, the kind that's been steeped in the breath of 1,000 children before you. There's a subtle sweetness in the air, vanilla from the candles, maybe, but also the earthy tang of parchment, soot, and rain-soaked robes. You move forward, shoes clicking quietly against the floor, the sound swallowed by the velvet hush of expectation that fills the room. Around you, other first-years shuffle nervously. Some whisper. Some stare straight ahead. Some, like you, don't know where to place their hands. Your fingers twitch at your side, longing for something familiar to hold onto, your wand, a coin, a ribbon from home. But everything familiar is gone. Only the unknown stretches ahead. At the far end of the hall sits a stool, not just any stool, but one that seems older than the walls. Its legs are uneven, and the wood is deeply grooved, polished not by hands but by time. On top of it rests the sorting hat. It is a ragged thing, more patched than cloth, its rim sagging like the shoulders of an old wizard. But its presence pulses through the air like the slow beat of a drum. You can feel it watching even before it moves. Then it does, one great crease widening into a grin as a voice emerges, low and amused, from somewhere deep within its folds. You aren't the first called. Others go before you, names echoing across the stones. Applause follows each declaration. Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Slytherin. Cheers rise, but you hardly hear them. Your ears are filled with the hush inside your own head, that place where thoughts float like dust motes in sunlight. Then your name. It doesn't sound like yours when called aloud. It sounds like someone else's story. You walk forward. Each step feels longer than the last. The distance between you and the stool is the same as before, but now it stretches like a bridge across a chasm. The silence in the hall sharpens, like frost forming across glass. Hundreds of eyes on you. Watching. Waiting. You sit. The hat drops onto your head with unexpected softness. It smells of something dry and distant, old smoke, mothballs, and a little like rain falling on ink. For a heartbeat, there is only darkness and the faint scratch of fabric shifting against itself. Then a voice. Right behind your thoughts. Ah, you. The words trickle into your mind like water into still earth. You feel the corners of the hat curl, as though it is smiling in a way that doesn't need lips. Well, this is a surprise. Or is it? You cannot speak, but something in you responds, your thoughts twitch in reaction. Curious. Curious indeed. You've been watched, you know. Not by me alone. There are those who whispered of your coming before you stepped foot in this castle. Strange, isn't it? How time remembers certain children more fondly than others. A pause. You've got the mind for Ravenclaw. The thirst to understand, not just what, but why. But oh, there's something else in you, isn't there? Hidden deeper. Something sharp. Calculating. Slytherin would do well with that. You go far there. Far and fast. You tense, and the hat feels it. Not ambition, it muses, voice curling like smoke around your thoughts. Perhaps not yet. But you understand ambition. You've seen it, perhaps. You carry a shadow of it. There's silence, then. A long one. The kind that isn't empty, but waiting. I see traces of a path you did not walk. A fork taken once, and then undone? Yes, that's the echo I sense. A life almost lived. A choice reversed. What an odd little knot in the tapestry of you. Your breath hitches. You wonder what I mean. Of course you do. But I won't tell you. Not yet. Not now. The hat chuckles softly, a sound like an old spell whispered in the dark. There's danger in you. But not of the cruel kind. The kind that follows a different beat. A question asked at the wrong moment. A truth uncovered too soon. More silence. Then, almost reluctantly, very well, if you must be placed where questions thrive and secrets whisper. The hat shifts. Ravenclaw. The word rings out, clear and bright, like the toll of a bell cutting through cloud. The world returns in a rush, sound, light, breath. But before you can rise, every single candle in the great hall extinguishes. A gasp rises. Then silence falls. Heavy. Absolute. The stars above still shine, but something in them has changed. They no longer twinkle. They glare. In the dark, you feel the weight of all eyes returning to you. Something crackles in the air, not sound, not scent, a shift. As though the castle itself has turned an unseen gaze upon you. Then a voice, soft, female, but with iron beneath velvet. Enough. It's Headmistress Elvira. The candles relied at her word. One by one, like stars being coaxed into life. She does not move. She does not speak again. But her eyes are locked on you. And she does not blink. No one claps. No one cheers. They are too busy staring. You rise slowly, as though through water, and walk toward the Ravenclaw table. The sky above you watches. The hat's last words still echo in the dark behind your thoughts. The path that was, and the path you walk now. Let's see where it leads, shall we? You sit. The hall breathes again. A little. But you don't. Not quite yet. And the sky still watches. You lie awake long after the dormitory quiets into the hush of slumber. The sheets are soft, the air tinged with lavender from the sachets tucked in the headboards, an old Ravenclaw tradition, someone whispered, but none of it comforts you. The sky beyond the tall windows is deep indigo now, the kind of color that only appears when the moon is elsewhere and the stars have grown weary. You stare at the ceiling, and every breath feels like it doesn't quite belong to you. That voice, the voice of the Sorting Hat, still curls inside your mind like smoke in a room with no windows. A path you did not walk. A choice reversed. The words echo not with clarity, but like something remembered from a dream. Your thoughts chase their own tails. You were sorted. Ravenclaw. It should be simple. But it isn't. Not with the way the candles died. Not with the way Headmistress Elvira stared, not curious, not confused, but expectant. As if she knew. Outside, the wind moves through the towers of the castle like a sigh. You can almost feel the stones listening. The very bones of the place feel awake tonight, whispering in ways too old for words. You pull the blanket tighter but remain still, letting your breath fall into rhythm with the quiet. When sleep comes, it's strange. You dream of corridors that twist upon themselves, of staircases that climb into the sky and vanish. You dream of the Sorting Hat again, but this time it floats in the center of a great hall with no walls, suspended above an ancient pool of ink-black water. You hear your name again, not spoken aloud, but written in the ripples on the water's surface. Then you awaken to early light slanting through the windows like soft fingers of gold. The Ravenclaw common room hums with a quiet dignity. No one rushes here. Even yawns seem to be muffled out of politeness. Bookshelves stretch from floor to vaulted ceiling, their spines aged and glowing faintly in the morning sun. Some students are already reading, perched on floating chairs or sprawled across the window seats. A girl with a tangle of black hair levitates a teacup without touching her wand. No one comments on it. This is Ravenclaw. But even here, your arrival does not go unnoticed. They look at you, not openly, not rudely, but with sideward glances, with long pauses in conversation when you enter a room. As though they're trying to remember something about you they've never been told. You meet Callan at breakfast, quite by accident. Or perhaps not. At Hogwarts, you begin to learn there is rarely such a thing as accident. He bumps into you near the entrance to the great hall, A flurry of elbows and muttered apologies, his bag half open and spilling quills like feathers from a wounded bird. Sorry, my bag hates mornings, he says breathlessly, kneeling to scoop up his things. You crouch to help, noticing how his wand, tucked behind his ear like a pencil, is cracked near the base. A jagged line runs through the wood like a lightning scar. He notices your glance and flushes. It still works. Mostly. Unless I ask too much of it. Then it sparks. He offers you a grin, lopsided and a little fragile. I'm Callan. You're the one from the sorting, yeah? That was dramatic. He doesn't mean it cruelly, and somehow that makes it harder to respond. You nod. He opens his mouth, then shuts it, unsure if he's allowed to ask the question that hovers there. You decide to save him. The candles went out. They did, he says quietly. They really, really did. He hesitates, then leans in just a little. Did the hat say anything to you? I mean, more than usual? You consider lying. But the image of the hat's grin resurfaces. And the word expected floats up again, unbidden. You nod. It hesitated. He bites his lip. Mine told me I was afraid. He says it without shame. Like it's a fact. Like gravity. And it was right. The honesty disarms you. He shrugs. Some people pretend the hat didn't say anything weird. I think it always does. It just knows who will admit it. You like him, you think. His words fill the spaces between thoughts like warmth. He's a little awkward, a little too loud for Ravenclaw, maybe, but there's a steadiness in him. Even with a broken wand. Breakfast is subdued. Plates refill with your thoughts, not your appetite. Eggs, toast, roasted tomatoes, but it all tastes distant. As you glance around, your gaze finds Headmistress Elvira at the high table. Her hair is silver and braided down her back, her robe an intricate weave of navy and shadow. She speaks to no one. She watches the hall, but not you. And somehow, that makes it worse. She doesn't need to watch anymore. She already knows. Later that morning, your first class is Transfiguration. The air smells of parchment and fireplace smoke, and the desks are carved with generations of initials. Professor Turn is old and elegant, his voice smooth as river stone. You try to focus, to pretend that today is just like any other first day. But your mind drifts. The hat's words keep unfurling in your memory like hidden parchment. A fork, taken once, and then undone. Can that happen? Can a choice be taken back? And if so, by whom? When the lesson ends, Callan walks beside you through the corridor that coils upward like a serpent. The walls here are hung with tapestries that shift when you're not looking directly at them. One shows a girl speaking to a mirror that frowns at her. Another weeps from the edges. Have you met the other Ravenclaws yet? He asks, voice light. You shake your head. There's someone you should meet, he says, almost too casually. She's a little odd, I guess. But everyone listens to her. Even the professors pretend not to. Her name's Amari. You repeat the name quietly, letting the sound settle on your tongue. She doesn't talk much. But when she does, people tend to remember. Just be ready. She sees things. What kind of things? He shrugs, expression unreadable. Things you haven't said yet. As you continue walking, you hear a whisper, not a voice, not a sound even, but a memory. The hat. The chuckle that wasn't quite laughter. Let's see where it leads, shall we? But you already feel it. The path isn't leading. It's circling. The third day passes like a page in an old book, soft around the edges, a little smudged, full of detail but hard to hold. The rhythm of life at Hogwarts begins to settle into you like dust into the grain of old wood. You know now which staircase is likely to move and which one pretends to, just for the drama. You know that the third tapestry on the second floor hides a shortcut to the astronomy tower, and that the portraits argue at night when they think no one is listening. But you don't feel part of it yet. Not quite. Something about the way the candles flickered out, the hush that followed, the silence of Headmistress Elvira, it clings. Like invisible ink on your skin, only visible when the right light hits. You try to forget. You try to blend in. But Hogwarts remembers things in its bones. You feel it each time you enter a room and the conversation tilts, ever so slightly, like a breeze shifting curtains. You feel it when you pass by groups of older students who pause, squint, and murmur, not malicious, just curious. Like they're trying to remember your face from a dream they haven't had yet. And most of all, you feel it in the Ravenclaw common room. It's beautiful, yes. The arched windows, the view of the lake, the way the stars seem to gather at the roof just to rest a while. But there's something sharp here, too. Everyone watches. Everyone notices. They don't say much. That's not the Ravenclaw way. But their eyes are full of questions they never ask aloud. On the morning of the third day, you find her. Amari. She's sitting in the window seat of the eastern alcove, legs folded beneath her, back straight as a wand. Her robes are immaculate, pressed without a wrinkle. The light from the window slides over her skin like water over stone. She's not reading, not writing, not moving. Just watching the sky with a stillness that seems unnatural in someone so young. Callan nudges you as you approach. He's been jittery since breakfast, as if this moment holds more weight than it should. There she is, he whispers, unnecessarily. You glance at him. You said she sees things. She does, he says, eyes darting toward her. She won't tell you what she's looking at. Not unless she wants to. But if she does speak to you, listen. You step forward, unsure why your feet feel heavier than they should. Amari doesn't turn when you approach. Her gaze remains fixed on the horizon, where the lake meets the sky in a smear of silver and fog. The clouds today are heavy, low-hanging things, and the light outside is the color of old pewter. Sit, she says, softly. You do. The cushion is still warm. I've been waiting for you, she says. Her voice is low, almost disinterested, as if this were a routine meeting arranged weeks ago. You search her face, trying to read her. But it's like trying to read a reflection in moving water. Her eyes are dark, not with malice, but with something quieter, heavier. She smells faintly of parchment and something colder, like the breath of a corridor long sealed. I'm Amari, she says, finally glancing your way. Her eyes hold you still, not with force, but with gravity. You've already guessed that I know things, she continues. I don't read minds. I don't see the future. I just listen to the castle. And the castle listens back. You swallow. Is that why you were waiting for me? She tilts her head. No. I was waiting because the Sorting Hat whispered your name 3 days ago. Your breath stutters. Before the ceremony, you ask, quietly. During, she replies. But not to you. You blink. It spoke it into the stones, she continues. Into the old cracks in the wall. Into the shadows in the rafters. It didn't do that for anyone else. Why? She studies you. Because you've been here before. The silence after that sentence is loud. You can hear the wind stirring against the window. The rustle of a page turning somewhere behind you. The soft whisper of a book sliding back into its shelf without a hand to guide it. You shake your head. I haven't. This is my first time at Hogwarts. She doesn't look away. Not for the castle. That thought roots deep in your chest, cold and quiet. Amari leans forward slightly. There's something tangled in your timeline. Something was rewritten. Not just moved. Erased. But magic remembers what people forget. Magic stains. You feel a tremor deep inside. What was erased? She doesn't answer. Instead, she turns back to the window. There's someone else who might help, she says. But she hasn't revealed herself yet. Her name is Bruma. You feel the name settle over your skin like the soft fall of dust. She collects strangeness, Amari murmurs. Writes it down. Things others ignore. She's watching you already. She watched the candles go out. And she didn't flinch. Why? Because, Amari says, finally turning to face you fully again, Bruma sees patterns. You are not the first. You sit back, the words folding into you, heavy and slow. She'll come to you, Amari adds. When she's ready. Don't try to find her. There's a long pause. Then Amari asks, in a voice so soft you almost miss it. Did the hat laugh when it touched your head? You look at her. Slowly, you nod. Her mouth presses into a thin line. Then we don't have much time. The rest of the day drifts like fog, clinging and silent. In class, you barely hear the lessons. The runes blur, the potions steam without purpose. Even Callan's chatter seems distant. The castle feels like it's breathing more heavily now. Every hallway you pass through feels like it holds a secret just behind its walls. You return to the common room after sundown. The moon has risen, silvering the sky beyond the tall windows. Students speak in quiet tones, some working, others laughing softly. Everything seems normal. But then you see a parchment tucked into the side of your pillow. Folded once. No signature. No seal. You open it. The handwriting is small and sharp, almost painfully neat. The candles always go out for those who've already chosen once before. The hat doesn't forget. But sometimes, it waits to see if you will remember. B. Your heart stirs like leaves in sudden wind. The stars outside glimmer. And somewhere deep below, in the bones of the castle, you think you hear the echo of laughter. But not from the hat. From something older. Watching still. Nights at Hogwarts are not entirely silent. Even in the deepest hours, when the world outside seems to hold its breath, the castle breathes. The staircases sigh and shift. Portraits murmur in their frames. The wind tugs at the edges of tower windows like a child begging to be let in. It's well past midnight when you find yourself awake again, drawn not by nightmare, but by a pull too soft to name. You sit up in bed, the note from Bruma, the girl who sees patterns, still tucked beneath your pillow like a charm. You haven't told anyone about it. Not even Callan, who has grown more loyal by the hour, though he pretends to be too distracted to care. You rise, quietly. The dormitory is steeped in blue shadow, moonlight turning every surface to silver. The air is cool, and you shiver, not from cold, but from the feeling that tonight the castle is waiting for you. The note had no instruction, no command. But something in it calls. And your feet begin to move as though they have always known where to go. You move past the sleeping bodies of your housemates, past shelves of floating books and softly snoring statues. The common room gives way to the spiral stair, which opens like a tongue into the corridor beyond. The light from your wand is small and golden, casting long shadows on the stone walls. You do not know where you're going, only that you must go. The silence here is layered. There is the silence of late hours, the hush of slumber. But beneath that lies another kind, an older quiet, the kind that presses against your thoughts. The kind that suggests something is listening. As you walk, your mind turns again to the sorting, how the hat had hesitated, how it had murmured about paths not taken, and then reversed. You remember the grin in its voice, the way of its knowing, and how, for one terrifying heartbeat, it had almost said, "Slytherin," you whisper aloud. The word lingers on your lips like an old spell, dry and heavy. But you were not sorted there. In the end, Ravenclaw claimed you. Or, no, not claimed. Was given. That's how it felt. A choice made not for belonging, but for balance. Like something had been set right, or set off. You reach a corridor you don't recognize. It's darker here. The sconce is unlit. The air smells faintly of damp stone and something herbal, like sage and forgotten scrolls. The windows show no stars. Only the blackness of the forbidden forest, stretching far beyond. You take a step. Another. And then movement. Someone ahead. You pause, heart suddenly wild. But the figure does not flee. It stands, back straight, framed in the arch of a side corridor. Cloaked in midnight blue robes. No lantern. No sound. You recognize the stillness. Amari. "I didn't follow you," she says, voice a hush in the dark. "I simply knew where you'd be." You step closer. "Did you leave the note?" She shakes her head. "Not this time." Then Bruma. She's watching. Amari interrupts, gaze flitting past you. She always is. But she's not ready to be seen. You stare at her, unsure of what to say. Amari continues, "You're walking it, then." The old path. What path, you ask? Her eyes narrow. The one you almost took. The one you were meant to take. Before it was severed. A chill wraps around your spine. Slytherin. She nods once, slow and solemn. Not for ambition. Not for cunning. For choice. That house has always belonged to those who decide. Who carve their fates even when the blade is dull. You hesitate. Then why? Why was I placed in Ravenclaw? Amari is silent for a moment. Then, softly, because knowledge is dangerous when it begins to remember itself. The corridor seems to grow colder. Amari gestures for you to follow. You walk in silence through a forgotten hall, where the stones are uneven and moss creeps into the corners. The air feels thicker, humming faintly with magic too old to be named. At the end of the corridor is a door that shouldn't exist. It's not locked. Not protected. Just there, plain and wooden, with no handle, no keyhole. This room, Amari says, appears only when questions grow too large to carry. You glance at her. And what's inside? She meets your eyes. Your first memory. You don't understand. Not completely. But your hand lifts, fingers brushing against the wood. The moment you do, the door ripples like water, and the air grows suddenly heavy with scent, lavender and old parchment, rain-soaked earth, and candle smoke. You step through and find yourself in the great hall. But it is not now. This is before. The banners are faded, the sky above a deeper shade of storm cloud. The tables are empty, the room echoing with something that feels like grief. You walk between the rows, unsure if you're meant to be here, or if you are here. The sorting hat sits on the stool at the front of the room. Alone. Its brim is folded into something like a frown. Then, a child walks forward. Small. Barely 9, though Hogwarts accepts no one so young. They approach the hat. Kneel. No ceremony. No applause. Only stillness. The hat speaks, but not aloud. You feel its voice, coiled in your chest like thread winding back on itself. You aren't ready, but the choice must be made. Are you sure? There is no turning once the thread is tied. The child does not answer with words. Only a nod. The hat lowers itself, and the candles go out. You step backward, heart thundering. The child lifts their head. And though the face is shrouded in fog, you feel a sickening pull in your stomach. It's you. You were here. Before the others. Before the year began. A trial run. A question posed in secret. And you chose. But someone undid it. The hall darkens. The vision fades. You're back in the corridor. Amari stands nearby, not watching, just waiting. You remember now, she says, though you haven't spoken. You nod. The air feels wrong in your lungs. Amari places a hand on the stone wall beside her. Someone reversed your sorting. But the hat did not forget. Nor did the castle. Nor did Bruma. You look at her. Why would someone do that? She finally meets your gaze. Because your path, as it once was led to something dangerous. Something you did, or would do. They thought changing your house might change your heart. You think of the Sorting Hat's laughter, of the dark between the candles, of the way Elvira had looked at you, not with fear, but with expectation. What did I do, you ask, voice cracking. Amari's answer is a whisper, nearly lost. You split something, or someone, and time itself flinched. You don't know how long you stand there, but when you return to the common room alone this time, the sky is beginning to pale. The east glows with the first promise of dawn. The note under your pillow is still there, but now, next to it, a second piece of parchment has appeared. The handwriting is the same, Bruma's, but the words are stranger still. You were always meant to walk both paths. One to choose, one to remember, but only one to return to. B. And underneath that, drawn faintly in ink that looks like moonlight spilled on stone, a symbol. A snake eating its own tail. The Ouroboros. And beneath it, a single word. Soon. The days that follow stretch long and whispering. You move through the rhythm of Hogwarts, classes, corridors, the slow turning of staircases, with a quiet kind of dread thrumming beneath your skin. Knowledge flickers behind every stone arch, every flick of a candle's flame. You know something now. Something old. A choice made before memory. A path walked and unwound. You cannot unknow it. You cannot unsee that child, yourself, sitting beneath the Sorting Hat in an empty great hall, long before your name was ever read aloud. You have not told Callan. He knows something has shifted. His eyes follow you more often, worry blooming in the corner of his gaze like ink in water. But he doesn't press. He seems to carry a weight of his own, one you haven't asked him to share. You wonder if it's because you both understand something about silence, that it can hold things safer than speech. And yet, on the fifth evening, it is Callan who breaks. It begins at the end of Charms class, after Professor Flitwick dismisses you with a particularly enthusiastic wave. The sun is already beginning to sink behind the distant trees of the forbidden forest, its light spilling through the castle like liquid bronze. You and Callan are the last to leave, trailing behind as the corridor outside empties with a shuffle of shoes and laughter. Callan's one slips from his sleeve. You don't think much of it until you hear the crack. You both freeze. The one lies on the stone floor, splintered clean through its middle. The tip, silver birchwood, has snapped at a diagonal angle, like lightning frozen in time. For a long moment, neither of you move. Then Callan lets out a strangled sound, not quite a word, not quite a sob, and drops to his knees. No, 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 oh, come on, he mutters, frantically collecting the pieces. It wasn't even my fault this time. I wasn't even doing anything. You kneel beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Callan, hey, it's okay, we can get it mended. Ollivanders. He shakes his head fiercely. You don't understand. You pause. Then tell me. Callan looks up, and his face is different. Still boyish, still kind, but drawn now. Fragile. His hands tremble as he clutches the broken wand like a wound. This is my second wand, he says, voice low and shaking. The first one broke last year. No one else knows. Not really. The professors let me stay on a temporary one until I could get a replacement. But I've been off since then. Off? Callan exhales shakily. Magic doesn't trust me. Not the way it used to. Things go wrong. Spells backfire. Charms misfire. Even this one, it never fit quite right. I told myself it didn't matter, but he trails off. You sit with him in silence. Around you, the castle seems to lean in. Callan swallows. The first one broke during an incident. One I can't talk about. I literally can't. Professor Elvira put a binding spell on it. For my safety. Or so she said. You feel your breath catch. Was it last year? You ask. He nods. End of term. You glance down at the broken wand, the way the core phoenix feather, you think, glows faintly in the fracture. And now, Callan says bitterly, this one breaks, too. Just falls from my hand. It's like something's trying to tell me I'm not supposed to be here. You look at him. Really look. There's something in his face, a hauntedness that doesn't come from clumsiness or jokes or awkward smiles. A crack, like the one in the wand, barely visible but deep. You say, carefully, what if you were supposed to be here? What if breaking things is part of your magic? He lets out a tired laugh. That's a comforting lie. No, you insist, more firmly. I mean it. There's something old happening. Around us. With us. I've felt it. The Sorting Hat, it said strange things to me. About fates and paths and memory. And Bruma, she's watching us. You. Me. Amari. Liz. Callan flinches slightly at the mention of Bruma, but says nothing. You press on. I think things aren't breaking because you're wrong. I think they're breaking because something's trying to stop you. Callan turns the pieces of the wand in his hands, eyes wide and unfocused. I've seen your magic, Callan. When it works, it's bright. Raw. Real. Maybe the wand couldn't hold it. He gives you a shaky smile. You're starting to sound like a Ravenclaw. You smile back, but it's brief. What really happened last year? His smile fades. I don't know all of it, he says, voice barely a whisper. Just flashes. A forest. Screaming. My own voice, but twisted. Something pulling me apart. I woke up in the hospital wing. Elvira told me I had a magical seizure. My magic overwhelmed me. That I was lucky to be alive. You shiver. She said I'd glimpsed something. And that if I remembered, it would unravel me. You reach forward and place your hand over his. Maybe it's time to remember anyway. He swallows, but nods. Then, to your surprise, he reaches into his satchel and pulls out a folded piece of parchment. Worn, creased at the corners. Without a word, he hands it to you. You open it. Inside are 6 lines, written in a different hand than Bruma's, but no less elegant. Sharp and hurried. 6 names unspoken, 6 paths obscured. 1 rewound, 1 broken, 1 silent, 1 seen. The fifth is the Watcher. The sixth, forgotten. Beware the seventh, who is never meant to be. You look up, heart suddenly pounding. Where did you get this? Callan doesn't answer immediately. It was under my pillow the night before term began. You stare at the note again. Rewound. Broken. Silent. Seen. Watcher. Forgotten. 7. You're only 4, aren't you? You. Callan. Amari. Bruma. And somewhere, out there, 3 more. One of them, the 7th, is dangerous. Suddenly, the air around you seems thinner. The corridor darker. The cracks in the stones seem to shift, like something underneath them is breathing. Then you hear it. A rustle. Not behind. Not ahead. Above. You both glance up, too fast, and the torch overhead explodes in a burst of blue flame. For a heartbeat, the corridor is nothing but light and shock and smoke. Then it's dark again, and a voice, soft, clipped, precise, echoes down from a ledge above. I'd appreciate if you two didn't speak prophecies out loud in public corridors. You both twist to look. And there, perched like a bird on the lip of the wall, legs dangling over the side, is a girl with short black hair and a book balanced on one knee. Her expression is unreadable. Liz. She closes the book with a soft snap. You really ought to be more careful. Some walls do have ears, you know. Then she drops slightly to the ground, cloak fluttering behind her like the wing of a shadow. And she smiles, sharp, brief, not unkind. You're not the only ones being watched. The library at Hogwarts changes after hours. By day, it is a labyrinth of knowledge, busy, fragrant with old paper and polish, humming with the whispers of students and the occasional snap of Madame Pance's disapproving glare. By night, it turns solemn, cavernous, like something sleeping with one eye open. You feel the difference even before you pass through the main doors. The temperature drops a few degrees. The scent of ink sharpens, mingling with dust and something more elusive, the earthy tang of forgotten things. The chandeliers dim themselves, their candlelight reduced to thin, flickering threads. Tonight, you are not alone. Callan walks beside you, quiet but steadier than before, his broken wand wrapped in cloth and tucked into his sleeve like a fragile limb. Liz walks ahead, more shadow than girl, her steps soft and precise, as if she knows where every creaky floorboard lies. The 3 of you move past the regular reading tables, beyond the towering bookcases that house familiar spells and essays, past even the restricted section with its chained tomes and heavy locks. At the far end, half concealed behind a forgotten suit of armor, lies a narrow spiral stair curling downward into the deep. You had not known this part of the castle existed. Liz stops at the top of the stair and turns to you. They call it the Silent Archives, she says, barely above a breath. It's where the castle keeps things it doesn't want to forget, but isn't ready to share. You exchange a glance with Callan, who shrugs. You can tell he's scared, but he's following anyway. That's Callan, loyal even when trembling. Liz presses her palm against the stone wall beside the stair. A faint pulse of blue magic ripples outward like a sigh, and the air shimmers. The wall opens. Stone groans softly, and a passageway reveals itself, sloped and descending into dark. You all descend. No torches light this path. Instead, the walls emit a faint glow, bioluminescent and strange, like moonlight caught in moss. The air smells damp but not unpleasant, like clean rain, minerals, parchment. The silence here is deeper than in the corridors above. It's not empty, but filled with listening. The sort of silence that absorbs thoughts as you think them, swallowing the sound before it's made. Liz finally speaks again, though her voice is more reverent now, like she's afraid to break something. This is where Hogwarts stores unstable memory. Magic that isn't dead but changed. Records of things undone. Erased timelines. Forgotten enchantments. You frown. Why are we here? She turns to you. Because what's happening to you, it isn't just personal. It's structural. Something in the foundations of the castle has shifted. I think your first sorting, wasn't just tampered with. I think it fractured something bigger. Something ancient. You shiver, though not from the cold. At the bottom of the stair, the tunnel opens into a wide circular chamber with no obvious ceiling. The walls rise into darkness, lined with tall, thin shelves made of silver lattice and glass. Inside, instead of books, are threads. Threads of light. Threads of shadow. Threads of color you can't even name. Each one pulses faintly. Some twist on their own, as if dreaming. Callan exhales sharply. What is this? Liz walks to one of the shelves, her eyes scanning with practiced speed. Chronometric strands. Each one a memory too volatile to be kept in mind. They're stored here, where the castle itself keeps watch. You reach out, compelled by a silver thread that glimmers softly near your hand. But Liz grabs your wrist before you can touch it. No, she says sharply. Look, don't interact. You don't ask to see these. They choose whether to be seen. You glance at her. Then how do we know which one is mine? Liz smiles faintly. We don't. But I have a suspicion something will reveal itself. And as if summoned by her words, something does. From the far end of the chamber, a single thread flares gold. Then dims. Then flares again, like a heartbeat. You, Callan, and Liz move toward it. It hangs alone in a tall, narrow vessel, its glow steadying as you approach. Liz murmurs something under her breath, a sequence of syllables that taste like time, old and circular, and the vessel opens. The thread slips out and wraps, slowly, around your wrist. Your body stiffens, but the thread is warm. Gentle. It does not bind. It simply invites. You close your eyes, and it begins. You are in the forbidden forest. Not the edge. Deep. So deep that the light above is nothing but memory. You are not alone. Beside you walks a boy, Callan. Younger. Laughing. Carefree. This is before the fracture. Before the fear. The two of you carry lanterns. The light flickers against trees that look too tall, too still. You are looking for something. A sound, like bells, but distorted, calls to you. You follow. Then, a clearing, and in its center, an arch. Not stone, not metal, made of root and magic and time. Your body moves forward, though you are screaming inside to stop. Callan shouts behind you, grabbing your hand, trying to pull you back. You reach the arch. Your fingers touch it. And time shatters. 7 voices cry out. 1 splits. 1 rewinds. And in the distance, something wakes. You fall back with a gasp, the thread recoiling as if burnt. Liz catches you before you collapse. Callan stares at you, wide-eyed. I was there. That was the night. The arch. I knew it wasn't just a dream. You struggled to find words. What was that arch? It wasn't in any book. Because it's not a thing of Hogwarts, Liz says grimly. It's older. One of the 7 tears of Idrith, a rift in time that occasionally appears. It doesn't obey our magic. It doesn't ask permission. When it's touched, it opens a path. A path to what? Callan asks. Liz's expression hardens. To possibility. Or undoing. Depending on who walks through. Your breath comes fast. You touched it. And something, decided to change your path. To rewind it. To place you on a different thread. You broke time, Liz says softly. That's why the Sorting Hat remembered you. That's why it hesitated. It knew. It felt the tear. And someone, Headmistress Elvira, perhaps sealed the damage by putting you in Ravenclaw. But it didn't work, you whisper. No, she agrees. The thread is unspooling again. A coldness curls at the edge of your thoughts. A thought that feels not like yours, but carried in on the echo of the arch. What was once chosen cannot be unchosen. Only delayed. Callan speaks up, voice hoarse. Then what do we do? Liz looks at you. We find the other 4. You blink. 4? You. Callan. Me. Bruma. That's 4. Liz raises a brow. But the prophecy speaks of 7. And 1, Callan whispers, was never meant to be. A chill runs through the air like a breath down your neck. From above, one of the threads, a black one, flickers sharply. Then extinguishes. You don't sleep that night. None of you do. The 3 of you sit in the Ravenclaw common room, its round windows silvered by moonlight, books and parchment spread across the floor like offerings to some unseen mind. The fire burns low in the hearth, casting long, flickering shadows across Liz's face as she sketches a rough map of Hogwarts on an old sheet of dragon hide. You and Callan sit across from her, elbows on knees, thoughts spinning in tandem with the flames. So, Callan says, after a long silence, 4 of us. 3 unknown. 1, not meant to be. His voice is quieter than usual, brittle around the edges. Liz doesn't look up. That line was deliberate. Never meant to be isn't poetic. It's categorical. A magical impossibility. Someone or something that shouldn't exist. You murmur, then why do they exist? Liz finally meets your gaze, her expression unreadable. Because something forced them through. The sentence drops into the silence like a stone into deep water. You hear it again, rustling parchment, echoing words. 6 names unspoken, the 7th who was never meant to be. Whoever left that message, Callan's mysterious note writer, knew more than they should have. You wonder if Bruma did, too. Her presence hangs in your thoughts like dust on old books, always there, always watching, always recording. And as the castle slips further into its quiet midnight breathing, something settles in your chest like certainty. You need to find Bruma. She finds you first. It happens just before dawn, when you step out into the corridor, leaving Callan and Liz still poring over old notes and timelines. You crave air. Space. A moment to hear your thoughts without the thrum of memory and prophecy pulling at your ribs. The hallway is quiet. Too quiet. You turn left toward the long gallery, the one with moving portraits of obscure magical inventors and forgotten seers. The portraits always whisper when they think no one listens, but tonight they are still. Some look away as you pass, as if feigning sleep. One, an elderly witch with iridescent eyes, presses a finger to her lips. You freeze. And that's when you hear it. Scritch, scritch, scritch. A quill on parchment. Measured. Rhythmic. You follow the sound. At the far end of the gallery, tucked behind a narrow arch you've never noticed before, is a door left slightly ajar. Beyond it, a narrow room with no windows, lit only by the pale flicker of one light. Inside, surrounded by stacks of notebooks and scrolls that climb the walls like ivy, sits Bruma. She doesn't look up when you enter. Close the door, she says, calmly. You do. The moment the latch clicks into place, the room hums with an enchantment, silent, thick as velvet. Soundproofed. Protected. Bruma finally lifts her head. She is not what you expect. Younger, maybe. Still and sharp, with hair like ink and eyes like mirrors. She wears Ravenclaw robes, but they're old, cut differently, stitched in a pattern you've never seen before. As if they belong to a time before yours. You've come, she says. You hesitate. Did you know I would? I've written 12 versions of this conversation, she says softly. This is the 7th. You blink. I don't know if that should comfort me or not. She smiles faintly. It shouldn't. You sit across from her, trying to still the nerves in your hands. There's parchment everywhere. Diagrams. Maps. Timelines written in a looping code. Some of it makes your teeth ache to look at, like the paper is older than it should be, holding memories that were meant to fade. Tell me what you know, you say. Bruma leans back. I know that you were rewound. That Callan was broken. That Liz was meant to know but forced to forget. And I know I was always meant to watch. Why? Because if I remember, she says, her voice almost a whisper, someone else forgets. That's how the balance holds. The room feels colder suddenly. The walls, closer. Bruma reaches for one of the notebooks and opens it, flipping to a page marked with a thin blue ribbon. She slides it toward you. It's a sketch. You. Or a version of you. Standing under the arch. The same one from the memory thread in the silent archives. But here, your face is different. Not younger. Other. Your eyes are not your own. and beside you stands someone cloaked in shadow. Their outline is human. Almost. But wrong. Too tall, too thin. No face. No hands. Just the faint impression of being. You shudder. What is that? You whisper. Bruma taps the page. I don't know their name. I call them the Drifted. They were the one who crossed with you. Crossed? She nods. Through the arch. Through the tier. They shouldn't have passed. The arch grants passage to one soul at a time. You brought two, and the world splintered to accommodate. You stare at the drawing, your skin cold. So, I'm not alone. You never were, she says. The Drifted exists in shadows now, half-formed, stuck between time and place. They are the seventh, the one who was never meant to be. But why follow me? Because you anchored them, Bruma says. When you crossed, your timeline was sealed, but theirs wasn't. They need you. To survive. To remain. You suddenly remember the black thread in the silent archives, the one that flickered and then went out. Bruma closes the notebook. I don't know how long the balance will hold. The others, Liz, Callan, they're entangled, too. Each of us is. And if the Drifted finds a way to stabilize, her voice trails off. What happens then, you ask, though you already fear the answer. Bruma meets your gaze, her expression utterly still. Then the version of this world where you exist ends. You sit in silence, listening, breathing. Outside the small room, the castle begins to wake. You hear it in the distant creak of stairs, the murmur of portraits, the faint clink of breakfast dishes in the gray hall far below. But here, in this quiet space of ink and secrets, time hangs suspended. I have to tell the others, you say, rising. Bruma's gaze sharpens. Be careful. The more people who remember, the weaker the seal becomes. You hesitate at the door. Why are you helping me? Bruma's eyes soften, just a little. Because I've watched 12 versions of you suffer, she says. And this time, I want to see if you survive. You find Callan and Liz waiting in the common room, both half asleep, curled like cats by the fire. As the sun crests the horizon, casting gold across the tower windows, you wake them gently. There is still time, still breath. But now you know, the seventh walks beside you, closer than shadow. And they are hungry. You feel it before you see it, the sky, not quite the sky. The false ceiling of the gray hall stretches above you, the illusion of twilight frozen in tones of lavender and rose. The enchanted stars shimmer faintly, but something is wrong, they don't twinkle. They flicker, like flame before it dies, and every now and then you catch a corner of sky, frayed, as if torn from within. It is the last day before the break. Most students chatter with restless excitement, too caught up in the promise of home to notice the strangeness in the air. You, Liz, Callan, and Bruma are seated together, but there's no comfort in the closeness. Because today is the day the Drifted will step through. You know it with the quiet certainty of dreams that repeat. You feel it in your bones. The castle does too. You notice the signs, staircases hesitating mid-move, suits of armor tilting their heads as you pass. Paintings blink more slowly. The air tastes metallic, as though charged with lightning held at bay. Callan hasn't spoken much since you told him everything. He holds the broken pieces of his wand like rosary beads, running his fingers along the splintered wood whenever he's anxious, which is often. You can see the tremor in his hands, but he's with you. That's what matters. Liz hasn't changed. Not outwardly. But there's a tension in her posture now, as if she's bracing for impact from something no one else can see. She's mapped it all, of course, countless threads of memory, decision, echo. But maps only prepare you so far. They don't help you when the world shifts beneath them. And Bruma, she watches. She always watches. It begins at sundown. The candles in the great hall rise for the evening feast, suspended in the air above. But instead of lighting with the usual gentle flame, they sputter, then extinguish, one by one, like falling stars. A hush falls over the hall. Forks and goblets pause midair. At the head table, Elvira stands. She says nothing. Her wand is already in her hand. The shadows gather at the center of the hall. Not cast by torch or sun, not shaped by angle or form, these are deeper shadows, born from absence rather than obstruction. And from within them, a figure begins to take shape. Tall. Familiar. Unformed. You feel the space inside your chest twist, a hollowing ache that echoes through your ribs. This is it. The drifted has found its way in. Somewhere behind you, a first-year gasps. Callan swallows hard. They're inside the sorting hat. I can feel it. Liz's eyes are glass bright. No. They are the sorting hat. You stare at her. What? It's not just a hat, she murmurs, voice trembling. It's a fragment of the founders. A splinter of soul and intention. If the drifted couldn't exist fully, they would have clung to something old. Something threaded into choice. Into time. The shape in the center of the hall lurches, and the sorting hat, resting untouched on its pedestal, twitches, then splits open with a sound like tearing cloth. No one screams. Not because they aren't afraid, but because the sound is taken. Swallowed by the drifted. It steps fully into view now. Not a person. Not a shadow. A corridor of selves. You see glimpses, your face, smiling. Your face, sobbing. Your face, older, cloaked in green robes. Your face, bloodied. Your face, blank. Flickering like pages flipped too fast. And at the center, nothing. You understand then, the drifted is potential. It is the weight of every version of you that never was, all collapsed into one hungry shape. The part of you left behind in the tear. The part not chosen. Why now, you whisper. Bruma's voice is steady, quiet. Because the veil between what is and what could be is thinnest at the end of things. You take a breath. Step forward. And the drifted notices you. The air goes cold, sharp as glass. The entire hall stills, caught in the space between breath and decision. You are alone at the center now, and the drifted moves toward you, the shimmer of its body slicing light as it walks. It reaches out. Not violently. Almost tenderly. like it knows you. You don't move. What do you want, you ask? And though it has no mouth, no voice, you hear it. To be, to choose, to matter. The sorting hat, now cracked open and humming with wild magic, lies between you. And you understand. This is its anchor. The drifted didn't just hide in the hat, it bargained with it. Fed it versions of fate too unstable to hold. And now it wants to finish the choosing. You kneel beside the hat. The room leans in. You don't put it on. You speak to it. I was chosen once. Rewritten. Replaced. But choice isn't a line. It's a weave. And you only ever saw the first stitch. A breath. A pause. Then the hat laughs. Soft, like memory. Oh, child, it says in your head. You were always more than one thread. But I was afraid. Of you. Of what you'd undo. The drifted steps closer. Its edges flicker, unstable. Your memories shift, Callan shouting in the forest, Liz dragging you through a library of smoke, Bruma watching from behind veiled eyes. And still, the hat speaks. There's only one way to choose now. It opens wider. Inside, not fabric, but light. Your one hand tingles. You reach in, and instead of a name, you pull out a mirror. Not large, not magical, just a small oval hand mirror, silver-edged, cracked down the center. You turn it toward the drifted, and it sees itself. It screams. A scream not of pain, but of mourning. It had never known itself. Only wanted to be you. You step closer. Then you say softly, but not as me. The mirror shakes, then shatters, and the drifted collapses inward, folding like a letter returned to cinder, dissolving into ash and light. The shadows train from the hall. Candles flicker back to life. The sorting hat sighs. Ah, it says, that was the real choice, wasn't it? You nod. And for the second time in your life, it murmurs, Ravenclaw. But this time, it sounds like peace. Alvera speaks, at last. But not to explain. Only to say, it is done. And that, somehow, is enough. Later, in the quiet of the tower, you sit beside the others, Callan asleep at your shoulder, Liz tracing constellations in her notebook, Bruma writing down the last sentence of a page titled Thread 7, Resolved. Outside, the enchanted sky glows a soft blue, a real morning for once. You are tired. But the kind of tired that comes from completion, not defeat. In a hidden corner of the castle, a black thread rekindles. Faint, but steady. And somewhere deep in the hall of memory, a voice murmurs, not all who are forgotten are lost. You smile. You chose. And were chosen. And in that soft, sacred hush before the world begins again, you sleep. And now, the castle sleeps. The candles have dimmed, the corridors lie still, and the stars, both real and imagined, shine quietly above. You've walked through shadow and light, through memory and mystery. You've heard the voice of the hat, the silence of the forgotten, and the quiet truth that choice is never truly simple. But for now, it's time to let go. Let the echoes fade. Let your breath slow. And let the warmth of safety wrap around you like a soft blanket. You are home. You are safe. And everything else can wait until morning. Close your eyes. Drift gently. And sleep well beneath the stars of the Great Hall.